Stand by for scroll.
Thank you.
Thirty seconds. Seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday, October 5th, 2022 Board of County Commissions meeting. I'm Nicole Gibbs, Community Relations Specialist. October is Safety Month and Elizabeth Wingo from Risk Management is here to talk to you about it. Elizabeth?
Morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today to talk to you about our first Safety Month that we're hosting for Sedgwick County employees. We're hoping to make this an annual event, so I wanted to get in front of you guys to plug it a little bit. We've themed each week, so this week is Safety Scavenger Hunt. We've put together a Safety Scavenger Hunt for employees to complete, looking for various types of safety equipment around their offices and how to identify different types of hazards. Next week, we're doing 2 special sessions of our in-person defensive driving course on Tuesday and Thursday, and there are still spots available for those classes. It is recommended that all driving positions for Sedgwick County complete defensive driving, but it is open to any employee who wants to take it. It is all day, in person, so it's a little long, but it is definitely worth it. The following week, we're doing self-defense classes with the Sheriff's Office. The class on the 20th is full, so we do have some spots still on the 18th. It's a 2-hour class, just some really basic self-defense. This was something that employees were asking us for based on our safety surveys that we did the past 2 years, so we're really happy to be able to deliver on that. And then for the past couple years, we've had inquiries about CPR training for staff, and EMS has been gracious enough over the past year to get 2 of their employees certified to teach CPR, and we are rolling that out for the first time here at the end of October to staff. There's a class every single day that week. It's just a short 2-3 hour class, and so that's open to all employees as well. And of course, it wouldn't be Safety Month if we didn't do the Employee Safety Slogan Contest. This is a big fan favorite of employees around the county. We asked them to come up with creative slogans to promote safety, and we typically get between 100 and 200 entries, and we'll pick the top one, and that'll be the face of the safety poster for next year. We're expanding that just a touch and asking departments also to think about how they do their work safely and to take a photo and submit that as well. And if we get some good submissions, those will also be featured on next year's safety poster. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff happening in October for employees all across the county to participate in. All of this information is available on eLine, and we hope to see all of you there.
Very good. Thank you, Elizabeth. Safety is very important. Appreciate what you do for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. World Mental Health Day is marked every year on October 10th, which is Monday, to raise awareness about mental health and to support those experiencing mental health issues. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, you can call Sedgwick County ComCare 24/7 at 316-660-7500 or by simply dialing 988 anywhere in the U.S. Sedgwick County offices will be closed on Monday, October 10th, for Columbus Day, which is an employee in-service. Emergency services are available by dialing or texting 911. And we have one more item that Chairman Dennis is going to come down here and talk about, or up there.
Thank you. And I invite Commissioner Lopez. Well, thank you. I have some good news this morning. I don't know how many of you follow the Wichita Business Journal, but there was recently a very nice article in the Wichita Business Journal, and also a number of us went to a luncheon that was sponsored by the Business Journal to recognize, first of all, Sedgwick County for diversity and inclusion, and second of all, to recognize Sarah Lopez, Commissioner for Diversity and Inclusion. Sedgwick County is an organization, and as I said, Sarah Lopez were both recognized by the Business Journal for their efforts with diversity and inclusion. The Wichita Business Journal Diversity and Inclusion Awards annually recognizes Wichita's folks who work hard at making companies and the city's business community more diverse. We are very proud of Commissioner Lopez and all of the work she's doing for equity, inclusion, and accessibility. We know that it's critical to the transformation of our regional economy, and as we heard yesterday during our roundtable discussions out at WSU and the EDA grant, we need everyone. We need different perspectives and those with a variety of skills and backgrounds to make successful products without barriers. And at this time, I'd like to present Commissioner Lopez with a great plaque on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you. Oh, gosh. Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting this, so I very much appreciate it. And obviously, this work is really important to me, and it's really important that we move some of these things forward with the county. It's just the way it needs to happen. So I appreciate taking the seriousness that the county takes these things as well, and appreciate this very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We do have a very busy meeting today, so when the chairman returns to the podium, I will turn the meeting over to him.
Thank you, and once again, congratulations to Sedgwick County and Commissioner Lopez. And Nicole, back to you.
Yes, the meeting is yours, sir.
Oh, very good. Well, thank you. I want to welcome everyone. We have a full house in the audience today, and we have a number of folks that are still joining us online. So at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order for Wednesday, October 5th, 2022. Madam Clerk, next item.
Invocation to be led by Jennifer Tarpa in Ridge Point Church. Please remain standing for the flag salute.
Let's pray. God, I pray a blessing on this meeting and for wisdom and discernment to make the decisions that are fundamental for Sedgwick County and its citizens. And we pray for unity in this meeting and that we honor everyone's opinions with grace and respect. I pray for guidance for the county commissioners to make the best decisions for the citizens and the neighbors within our community. And God, we thank you for our members and their service to this community. Lord, we thank you for our freedom and for our nation. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Meitzner. Present. Commissioner Cruz.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Present. Next item, please.
Public agenda.
Commissioners, we received one comment online last night. Everyone's had an opportunity to review that one comment. Move to receive and file. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Aye. Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Also, we've a number of people that have signed up to speak on today's agenda. It looks like everyone that's signed up is signed up for something that's going to appear someplace else on our agenda. So you'll either have an opportunity to speak now during the public agenda portion, or if you wish to speak when it comes up on the agenda, we can provide that opportunity to you. So I'll go through one at a time and see if you'd like to speak now or later. Lawanda DeShazer. Now, okay. Janice Bradley. Now, okay. Liz, I can't read the last name, I'm sorry. It starts with an H. You want to speak now? Okay. And Mary
Ware.
Where?
Senator Mary Ware.
Now, okay. Everyone will speak now. We'll start with Lawanda DeShazer. Please approach the podium, state your name for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
Good morning. I have my friend standing in solidarity with me, Ms. Marquita Atkins Woods. But I am Lawanda DeShazer, and again, I have a speech all wrote out, and of course I left it at home, but I'm going to wing it. All right. So good morning, commissioners, and as always, I thank you for all that you do, and I thank you for the opportunity to be able to address my concerns with you today. I am here in support of Sedgwick County recognizing Juneteenth as a paid holiday for county employees. We all know or should know the history of enslavement in America. Next Monday, the county will acknowledge Columbus Day by closing to the public and having an in-service day for its employees. It is debatable if Columbus discovered or landed in what we now call the United States, but it is not debatable that in 1619 the enslavement of Africans and other black people started in America. Nor is it debatable that the Emancipation Proclamation was enacted January 1, 1863. Nor is it debatable that there were some holdouts. Not everyone was willing to give up chattel slavery. It wasn't until June of 1865 that some 250,000 enslaved people in Texas were finally freed, almost 2 years after emancipation. So Juneteenth has been called America's second Independence Day by some. So it should not be debatable that Sedgwick County should acknowledge Juneteenth in a formal manner by making it an official county holiday. Recently, there have been conversations about racism and ethical behavior. By recognizing Juneteenth as a formal holiday, you as commissioners have the opportunity to help end racism or the perception of racism and do the ethical thing of recognizing Juneteenth. How fitting that you celebrated getting an award for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this Juneteenth gives you the utmost opportunity to keep that momentum moving forward and recognizing all of your employees that work for Sedgwick County. And it's been said before that it's not just a black holiday. So many people were affected by Juneteenth, black, white, everybody that was here in America. So why not celebrate it, all of us together? And again, Sedgwick County has another opportunity to be a leader in our communities and recognize Juneteenth as an official county holiday. So thank you in advance for your consideration of this request.
Thank you. I don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Janice Bradley. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Janice Bradley, and I came here today to speak to the legislative agenda. I noticed there was a proclamation regarding mental health awareness the day of October 10th, and we know it's been just over a year since the tragedy of the death of Sedgwick Lofton, and this was definitely an issue of mental health. And it was a tragedy with what the Wichita Police did, taking him to JIAC instead of St. Joe and counseling the JIAC employees to lie on the form. And nobody took responsibility, nobody was accountable to this. We know that the Stand Your Ground law was used by District Attorney Bennett to say he couldn't legally or, with legal sense, based on the rulings, charge anyone for this. So I would ask that the county look at its legislative agenda and ask that the legislature take another look at this law and see, based on the rulings that have come out of it, can something be done to tweak it, to make it a more reasonable law in the face of the situation we had here with Sedgwick Lofton? Somebody should be held accountable. I'm not saying they should go to prison necessarily or anything like that, but it's just very unsettling that this took place and that nothing was done. The second issue I would like to see on the legislative agenda, and I've spoken to this before, is Medicaid expansion. Kansas is one of only 12 states in the whole country who have refused to expand Medicaid. And it's another tragedy because we have people with mental health issues who aren't being treated because of this policy, because of this refusal to expand Medicaid in Kansas. It's an issue of mental health, it's an issue of physical health for thousands of people here. And it only makes sense. We've had the situation with states that have, like Kansas, refused with their legislatures to approve, where they've had ballot issues in states that do that, and the populace has overwhelmingly voted. We know that Kansas residents, by polls, for instance, the Fort Hays State Docking Institute poll that's done every year, that approximately 70% of Kansans approve of expanding Medicaid. So that's the other issue I would ask for the county to consider its legislative agenda today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley. I don't see any questions. The next speaker is Liz Hammer. Welcome. State your name for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Liz Hamer. My pronouns are she, her. I am here to speak to you. I'm going to echo and go on the record to say I agree with the two speakers ahead of me on everything. And I'm here to speak specifically about Juneteenth. So my business is Center of Daring. I'm a leadership consultant to help individuals, particularly people in positions of authority, make courageous decisions, right? To align their stated values with their actions. That's really not easy for a lot of people, especially even when nobody's watching them, right? If I say, I'm going to exercise every day because I value exercise, but I don't do it, nobody's watching me. But when people are elected officials or when they're in positions of authority and power, people are watching whether or not your stated values align with your behavior and your actions. And so on the topic of Juneteenth, LaWanda DeShazer gave a really great summary of why Juneteenth is important and why it's here. And so I'm just here to ask if it's a hard decision to make Juneteenth a Sedgwick County holiday, why? Why is that important? And what values are competing there? One interpretation is that money competes. And my work is specifically around diversity, equity, and inclusion, helping people align their values with their behaviors and action around DEI work. I'm so glad that you all got a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Award. And I would like to see you all continue to live that value. It's a stated value, obviously. I heard everybody applaud here. And so we want to make sure that your values and your actions are coming together in celebrating Juneteenth, citywide, countywide, for everybody. One of the other reasons I think that this is important that I do in my work is around education and awareness. So LaWanda gave a little bit of the history, but I want to say, and this is not something that a lot of white people would probably admit, but I didn't know what Juneteenth was until I was in my 30s. And I'm disappointed by that. I'm disappointed by my education. I'm disappointed by my community that that's not something that I knew about. And so education and awareness in anti-racism work is really important. So even just having this holiday on the calendar for Sedgwick County employees is going to add to that education and awareness for all Sedgwick County residents, but including I'm getting tongue-tied, including the employees. And so I think that I'm just here to encourage you, I guess, to add Juneteenth as a Sedgwick County holiday, to consider that we can do anti-racism work, we can make sure that we continue to live out our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion in this way, and choose that over other values that we may have competing, like money or safety around continuing to be elected, right? So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't see any questions. Also, I should have looked closer to the audience because I always recognize our electeds in the audience, and I apologize that I didn't pick up who it was that was signing in. At this time, I'd like to recognize Senator Mary Ware for being here. Appreciate it. And you also are signed up to speak. Thank you.
Well, good morning, all. My name is Mary Ware. I live here in Wichita, and I'm trying to find my notes. Okay, they're not going to come. I guess I'll have to wing it too. I was going to give you a little bit of history of Juneteenth, but obviously you've already heard all that. I am here to support the idea of making it an official holiday. It's also, besides Juneteenth, it's also called Freedom Day, Emancipation Day. And you know, what is more American than emancipation and freedom? I have watched locally our Juneteenth celebration grow and grow every year. It's been so exciting. It includes a parade with a marching band, beauty contest, not a beauty contest, a Miss Juneteenth contest, which is a whole lot more than beauty, and she is a beautiful young lady. Dance contests, and all manner of backyard barbecues. But probably most important, it's a day for careful contemplation and prayer and service to the community. I believe that this would simply elevate the whole experience here in Sedgwick County for all of us. This is not a black holiday. It's an opportunity to embrace our common humanity. It's an opportunity to come together. It would be an asset to our community to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate you being here today, and I don't see any questions. Thank you. Okay.
Actually, I did have a question.
This is public comment right now. I'm sorry. I don't see anyone else signed up on public comment today. Move to receive and file.
Okay.
We have just a moment. We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Cruz.
As a point, would it be possible to allow Marquita Atkins to ask her question?
We normally do not do that, but I'll allow her to ask a question.
Well,
To the podium.
okay. First off, I want to apologize. I was late, so I didn't get to sign in.
because I couldn't find a place to park. So the question is, I guess to you guys, I always want to validate, underscoring what you said about Sedgwick, Lofton, and Juneteenth. What is the message that we're sending to our young people? And so the question that I would want to ask you guys specifically is, what is your why when you came in this work? I always look at how people, electeds, when they are governing for their positions, they do it as a public servant. And I'm saying this respectfully and with love. And then sometimes when we get into our positions, we become politicians. And so I always ask people, what was your why coming into this work? One thing that I do is I mentor kids for a living, and I know the impact of what it feels like to be included and inclusive. And just to say, as a constituent, when I vote in public servants, I do it because I don't want them to go along with the grain that's already been established. I do it because I want them to be a cultivation of change. And when we take young people and we show them, not tell them, not talk to them, but show them by action the power of being included, it changes the way they act in school. It changes their behaviors. It changes their perception of belonging in this city. We lose way too many kids because they feel like they don't belong here. Having Juneteenth amplified in a way that shows that it's inclusive, we show that they belong. Having Sedgwick, Lofton, and mental health acknowledged will allow kids to feel less fearful about the way that they move in this city. Our kids felt rejected. And so my question to you guys is, what is your why when you came into this work? And how do you apply it every day in everything that you do for the city of Wichita and the youth and the people that live here?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Aye. Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Aye. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Next item, please.
Consideration of minutes. Item A, regular meeting minutes of September 7th, 2022.
Thank you. Commissioners, everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes from September 7th, September 14th, and September 21st. Move to approve all three. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Aye. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Next item, please.
Proclamations. Item D, proclamation declaring Junior League of Wichita Appreciation Week.
Thank you. I've asked Commissioner Meitzner to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proclamation, whereas the Junior League of Wichita was established in 1925 and is an organization of women committed to advancing women's opportunity for leadership and meaningful community impact through volunteer action, collaboration, and training. And whereas the Junior League of Wichita has been the driving force behind the kinds of investments, initiatives, and institutions that make Sedgwick County a healthier, more vibrant community, including the Pride of the Plains exhibit at Sedgwick County Zoo, revitalization of Heritage Square Park, establishment of the Baby Mobile Outreach Program with the Wichita Children's Home, and a partner in the expansion of the Child Advocacy Center. Whereas Junior League of Wichita is hosting the 18th annual Holiday Galleria to raise funds to fulfill their current initiative of empowering women to be safe, smart, and successful by offering assistance with connecting women with life-saving resources, financial literacy education, providing scholarships to advance learning, professional development opportunities, and mentorship. And whereas Junior League of Wichita, their core values of diversity, collaboration, community investment, leadership, respect, and service enable all women in Sedgwick County to serve as catalysts for lasting change within their community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Chairman David T. Dennis and the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners do hereby proclaim October 2nd through 8th of 2022 as Junior League of Wichita Appreciation Week in Sedgwick County and encourage all citizens to express our appreciation by supporting Junior League of Wichita and by attending the 2022 Holiday Galleria held on October 6th through 8th at Century 2 Expo Hall. October 5th, 2022. I'm proud to have made this proclamation, and I make a motion that we approve.
Second. I don't see any discussion. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz. Aye. Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Aye. Chairman Dennis.
Aye.
And here to accept is Stephanie McCurdy, whose proven leadership in this endeavor has been well recognized. And Stephanie, you and your team do a fantastic job. So thank you.
Welcome. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioners. We are very honored to receive the proclamation today here at Sedgwick County. Since the Junior League of Wichita's inception in 1925, thousands of women have served the greater Wichita area as volunteers. These women represent all walks of life and common goals, serving the community and developing the potential of women. Our current mission, voted on in April of 22, will now focus on empowering women to be safe, smart, and successful. Our largest fundraiser of the year is rapidly approaching. Holiday Galleria, a day of shopping, a year of giving, and the Junior League of Wichita's annual upscale shopping event featuring over 100 merchants come to the Wichita and Sedgwick County area. This will be October 6th through 8th, and we hope that you can join us. Thank you.
That's tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item E, proclamation declaring National Disability Employment Awareness Month.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'd like to read a proclamation. Whereas October 2022 marks the 77th anniversary of the National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And whereas the purpose of the National Disability Employment Awareness Month is to educate about disability employment issues and celebrate the many and varied contributions of America's workers with disabilities. And whereas workplaces welcome the talents of all people, including people with disabilities, they are a critical part of our efforts to build an inclusive community and a strong economy. And whereas activities during this month will reinforce the value and talent of people with disabilities, add to our workforce, places, and communities, and affirm Sedgwick County's commitment to an inclusive community that increases access and opportunities to all, including individuals with disabilities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Chairman David T. Dennis, and the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners do hereby proclaim October 2022 as National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month, and call upon employers, schools, and other community organizations in Sedgwick County to observe October with appropriate programs and activities, and to advance its important message that people with disabilities add value and talent to our workplace and our communities, and continue to take steps throughout the year to recruit, hire, retain, and advance individuals with disabilities, and work to pursue the goals of opportunity, full participation, economic self-sufficiency, and independent living for people with disabilities. Commissioners, you've heard the proclamation. Move to approve. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Meister. I missed.
Yeah, I just want to also give a shout out to all companies that utilize the skills of people with physical disabilities. A couple that point out, Envision has that in their mission, and I'm very familiar with Center Industries that has that in their mission, and I just want to recognize those two. I'm sure there's others, but I want to congratulate all the companies that do not have that in their mission statement, but they have hired people, and people with disabilities have an incredible value that they bring on their own, and it often is not recognized. I just want to give a sincere appreciation to all those companies. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Meitzner. And here to accept today is Melissa Sutton, Adult Project Instructor at Goodwill Industries. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, and I appreciate you allowing us to come here. It's really exciting to watch the people that came before me because of the inclusivity that we're discussing. So for me to be here with two of my favorite people to share our experience or their experience with Adult Project Search. I am Melissa Sutton. I work for Goodwill Industries as an adult instructor. Goodwill Industries has partnered with Cintas Corporation in having a 7-month internship for adults. Now, you may have heard of Project Search, but this is adult Project Search. Project Search started back in 1987, I believe, 97. Anyway, there's been 35,000 individuals serviced successfully with this program. We are around the world, from New Zealand, the UK, to right here in Wichita. And each class is a 7-month internship. There is a stipend attached to the class. Adult Project Search is for adults from 22 to 50. These are people who may be able to find employment but cannot keep employment because they don't have the soft skills nor the life skills. So that's why the program is 7 months long. I have an opportunity, along with the skills instructor, to work very closely to ensure that it's geared and streamlined to individuals, because just like we are very diverse, they're a very diverse population within a diverse population, and that's what we pay attention to. And not to brag or anything, but we have 100% success rate with our last cohort, and I'm excited to introduce 2 of them that are here today. One of them was from the last cohort. His name is Daniel Roberts. The young lady is graduating in October. Hey, it is October. What an appropriate time to graduate, right? October 27th is her graduation date, and so they're here both to share a little bit with you about what they think the program has done for them.
Thank you. Morning, Daniel.
Good morning. Before I went to Adult Project Search, I went to another Project Search called Project Search. Back in 2016, my experience wasn't very good, thinking that some of the instructors were very childish and thinking that they might set me up for failure. However, 4 years later, after I left Project Search back in 2017, in May of 2021, I was able to do a task to be accepted to Adult Project Search. A week later, I was accepted. On June 1st, 2021, I was able to meet up with one of Melissa's assistants, who I became friends with back in March when I invited him over for dinner. At first, I wasn't going to like him, but I actually did after getting to know about him a little. What Adult Project Search might do for you is actually get you a new job, teach you new life skills, better ideas, better job skills, and better life skills. It can also get you a job if you actually stay for the whole 7 months. And if you actually do survive 7 months, you actually get a job if you basically do well. Right now I'm working at Goodwill Industries, where I'm actually working as a sealer. If you want to find Melissa, you can actually get her cell phone number, which is at 316-249.
We don't need to give her number out on the TV. Hello, Nancy. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Welcome. I'm sorry I didn't get your name.
Hi, my name is Aliyah Dyson. I am going to talk about Project Search. How are you doing today? I am going to talk about Project Search. Help me to stay focused and help me with coworkers. Project Search helped me a lot from 2019. Melissa helped us a lot of support. I do handling and sorting, and I do the back room, and right now I am doing stock room. I do a little bit of sorting. and now I am doing project search for 2022. I was shy before, but now I am not shy no more. I am move fast. I on times if they pull me out to my spot, and I will go with pull me out, and I find I am done with. I will go back. I never do handy until now. It was a struggle. Now I can do it with ask for help to build up my strength. I am struggling how to get along with coworkers, learning about nutrition too, so I can stay hydrated and make healthy food sources to work skills, support my peers, how to get along with coworkers. Thank you for coming to support Goldman and Adult Project Search.
Thank you, Commissioners, and shout out to Centos that does sponsor the Adult Project Search. Sedgwick County has a student project search. Derby's student project search is at McConnell Air Force Base. And there's some at St. Francis and St. Teresa hospitals as well, all giving folks with intellectual and developmental disability actual job experience. Because sometimes, may not interview the best, but give them a chance to show what they can actually do, and I guarantee you'll be surprised. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for bringing the folks here to speak with us today. I want to thank especially our staff and CDDO and all of the different partners that they work with in order to help the people with disabilities in our community. We do have some items on our legislative agenda that people didn't speak to today to help reduce the backlog of people that with disabilities, to make sure that we can provide the services that they need. So I think that's really an important part of our legislative agenda that we'll talk about later on today. But thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Appointments. Item F, resolution appointing Gage Hunt to the Sedgwick County 2nd District Citizens Advisory Board.
Mr. Papoon.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. The item before you today is a resolution appointing Gage Hunt to Commissioner Lopez's Citizens Advisory Board. He is replacing the vacancy created by Jenny Dong, and the resolution is proper form. Ask you approve the resolution.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez.
Well, first, I just want to thank Gage. He reached out to me and just said he has an interest in serving the community and wanting to help District 2 kind of move him along. So I really appreciate your willingness to be a part of this. He's come to a couple of meetings just to make sure we didn't scare him off or anything, and he still wanted to join. And I'm very happy that you're here. So I will move that we adopt the resolution and appoint Gage Hunt to the District 2 Advisory Board.
Thank you. I'll second that. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Aye. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. If you approach the podium, our county clerk is here today, Kelly Arnold. He will swear you in, and you'll have an opportunity to make some comments after that.
Good morning, Commissioners. All right, please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Sedgwick County 2nd District Citizens Advisory Board, so help me God. I swear. Good job.
Hi, how are y'all? Name is Gage Hunt. I'm now appointed seat on the 2nd District CAB, and I just want to thank Commissioner Lopez for the opportunity and all of the board for the opportunity as well to better serve my community. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Congratulations. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
New business. Item G. Consider a resolution creating a benefit district in Sedgwick County, Kansas, and authorizing road improvements therein. Dry Creek Estates.
Morning, Lynn.
Good morning.
Garth, welcome.
Let's see if we can. Should have a PowerPoint on here. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Again, my name is Lynn Packer, your Deputy Director of Public Works. I am here today with Garth Herman with Gilmore and Bell. He's acting as our bond counsel today. On the agenda before you is a request to create a resolution to create a benefit district that would allow for improvements within the Dry Creeks Estates subdivision. Dry Creeks Estates is a relatively new platted subdivision located south of Central on the east side of 167th Street. This benefit district would allow for, in this particular case, would allow for the creation of, or the construction of roads, the internal roads, and the drainage that serves the residential subdivision. I believe there's 34 residential lots that are being served there. I will have Garth come up and talk to you about the details of the creation of the benefit district as well as the financials.
Morning, Garth.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. As Lynn mentioned, Garth Herman with Gilmore and Bell, the county's bond counsel. As Lynn mentioned, this is a benefit district project, and so in essence, the owners of the property who are going to be benefited by these road improvements submitted a petition to the county requesting that the county authorize these improvements to be made at the estimated cost set forth in the petition, and then once the project is completed, that the final costs of that project are then assessed back against these 34 lots that are shown on the screen. Those assessments then will be repaid over a period of years. In addition, once the project is completed and those special assessments have been levied, then the county will go ahead and include the project costs for this project in a county bond issue that will then also, the length of the bond issue for these projects will match the length of the assessments that are actually levied for these projects as well. The estimated costs of these road improvements are approximately $2,187,000. As I mentioned, that is the estimated cost. The final cost won't be known until on the back side of it when the project is actually completed. But there is an estimate based on that cost of the amount of the assessment, per lot that will be assessed against each of those 34 lots in the improvement district. So with that being said, I'll stand for any questions that you may have. And if there are none, I would request that you adopt a resolution to authorize these projects as set forth in the petition.
Thank you, Garth. I don't see any questions at this time. It's in my district. I'm well aware of this project. It's come up several times. This is a normal process that we go through when someone is creating a new district to be able to get the roads put in and pay for them. So I make a motion that we adopt the resolution creating the benefit district. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Aye. Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Next item, please.
Item H, ZON 2022-00038, zone change request in the county from RR Rural Residential to SF20 Single Family Residential, generally located on the north side of West 69th Street North, within 1/4 mile east of West 69th Street North and North Hoover Road, 4900 West 69th Street North.
Morning, Scott. Before you get started, I understand that someone wanted to come in by phone for this item today. Do we have them on the phone at this time?
Yes, applicant Chad Dean is on the phone here.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Also, before we start, is there anyone with ex parte contact that'd like to disclose at this time?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I have had a conversation with my Citizens Advisory Board. A few community members came to that discussion, and so I want to disclose that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't think anyone else had ex parte contact. And can you tell us who's on the phone also?
Sir, can you identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Chad Dean. I'm the owner and applicant of this parcel here.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we'll give you a chance, unless you have you're also the applicant. Do you have anyone representing you here today?
No.
Okay.
Raymond with Alpha Surveyors is the one that's done all the work on this, and
Okay.
He's my agent slash, I guess, advisor.
All right, I'll give you a chance to speak after our Director of Planning Department has a chance. And I'll turn it over to Scott, and you can present the case.
Good morning, thank you. Scott Wadle from the Planning Department. This item is being presented today because the Citizens Advisory Board and the Planning Commission have different recommendations. In terms of the request, the applicant is requesting rezoning from rural residential to SF20, single-family residential. And that is for the property that you can see outlined in red. It actually consists of 2 parcels. The applicants have indicated it's their intention to develop 3 single-family residences on the site. The subject site is 1/4 east of the intersection of West 69th Street North and North Hoover Road. Again, it consists of 2 parcels and is currently zoned rural residential and developed with 1 single-family home and outbuildings. In terms of context, the majority of properties surrounding the subject site are zoned rural residential and in agricultural use. As you can see, here is the zoning map. Here again is the aerial. There is SF20 single-family residential zoning district located approximately a half mile to the east of the subject site. And there are 1-acre lots on the northeast corner of West 69th Street North and North Hoover Road. In addition, beyond that, to the north and west are a number of large lot residences. In terms of case history here at the site, related to this zoning case, the applicant has submitted a plat for the property, that is case SUB 2022, number 39. On August 4th, the Planning Commission approved the plat subject to the conditions identified in the staff report. The platting process for this is not completed and the plat has not been recorded. The Planning Department is waiting for the applicant to provide the Mylars for signatures. On August 18th, the Planning Commission considered this application at a public hearing. The MAPC recommended approval of the request by unanimously 12-0. 1 member of the public spoke in opposition to this item with concerns regarding laterals and drainage. He was concerned where the sewage would go, what would be built on the subject site, and if the site will have well water. The applicant was present and confirmed that the site will have septic and well water. On September 12th, the Citizen Advisory Board for District 4 considered the application. The CAB recommended that the Board of County Commissioners send the case back to the MAPC because the applicant was not present to answer questions. Several members of the public spoke in opposition to this item at that meeting with concerns again regarding lateral, septic, and drainage. 2 members of the public were concerned that the subject site cannot be serviced by laterals and well water because they cannot be extended that far according to their comments. They were also concerned where the drainage would go. While these issues were not necessarily associated with the zoning change process, the applicant was not present to address them. No protests were received for this case, therefore the zone change request can be approved with a simple majority of 3 of 5 votes. In terms of recommended action, it is recommended that the BOCC adopt the findings of the MAPC, authorize the chairman to sign the prepared resolution. Again, this would require a simple majority. In terms of alternatives, you can deny the application, make alternative findings, and override the MAPC. This would require 2/3 majority to override the MAPC or 4 out of 5 votes. And as always, you can return the case to the Planning Commission for additional consideration with a statement specifying the basis for the failure to approve or deny, and that would require a simple majority. So with that, I'll take you through some of the images and graphics for the site and then stand for questions. So here's the zoning map. Again, you can see it's surrounded by rural residential zoning. This is a map from the comprehensive plan. Here's the protest map. Again, no protests were received for this application. Here's photos from the site. Looking south across the street. And back to the aerial. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Scott. I'd like to hear from Chad if he had some comments. Chad, do you want to have an opportunity to speak to this item?
I couldn't hear you very clearly. Were you asking for me to speak about something?
Yeah, she's asking if you had any comments.
No, I just asked that you pass what we're asking for here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chad, for being here today. So, Scott, would you just speak to, I know that the concerns of my Citizens Advisory Board were specifically around water, and I know that will be handled during the plating of this. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're really just talking about the zone change today, and then the plating will come later should this pass. So, but to that end, would you mind just speaking to some of the water and the drainage?
Sure. And knowing that that was going to be, that has been an issue that's come up during the public discussion about this item, I asked folks from MABCD to be here present to help address that process. And so fortunately, we've got some experts in the room. Kelly, would you like to come up and explain the process for that?
Thank you, Kelly, for being here today. If you could just give us a real quick overview.
Sure. We have performed soils work on the property in question, found it to be acceptable for a standard septic. There's plenty of room for septic and individual water wells on each of the lots without any groundwater contamination.
Okay, well, I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation today. My Citizens Advisory Board is there to help me make decisions, and they requested that we send it back, but due to the nature of the concern being addressed at a different stage of this process, I'd like to go ahead and move that the board takes the recommended action and follow the MAPC recommendation.
Second that. Do any of the commissioners have any questions before we vote? Or Scott, do you have anything to add?
Just one quick question. I'm wondering if you'd like to see if there's any public comment on the item.
Oh, that's a good point. I appreciate it. Before we go back to the commission, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, Commissioner Howell.
Yeah, just a point of order. First of all, do we have to declare a public hearing in this case? It doesn't say that on the paperwork here, but I'm just curious about the public hearing as we get started.
Sure, Commissioner Howell, Justin Wagner, Deputy County Counselor. There's no requirement for a public hearing at this stage. The required statutory public hearing occurs at the Planning Commission level.
Okay, all right. And I have some questions and comments. So again, I appreciate Commissioner Cruz dealing with the issue of the water, because I think that was the nature of the concern by the CAB board. I am curious about the CAB board just a little bit. Again, it's a 12-member board, and I believe there were 5 members present at that. I did watch the meeting. Thankfully, it was available, and I did watch it. But the vote on this was 4-0 with 1 abstention, so it's 4-0 to 1. And I'm curious about a 12-member board that has 4 votes in one direction, if that's considered something that would be passing. I don't know. Just curious how that works on a CAB board. So 25, so basically 33% of the CAB board voted in favor of the motion to recommend sending this back to MAPC. So,
Commissioner Howell, I believe and I'd have to look at each CAB board to see if they're the same, but some of these boards we have a quorum set below what would be a simple majority and at 4, and so if you have a quorum there of 4, a majority of quorum can always take action by the general rule in a public meeting.
So in CAB 5, we're going to have a meeting this Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon this Friday. In CAB 5, we don't do property rights cases because I believe these are constitutional in nature, and I believe that the elected members need to have the hearings and do the work to make sure these are as. So we come into these meetings as best we can, completely neutral. And again, the Citizens Advisory Board is intending to advise a commissioner on a particular direction. So it's hard to say that it hasn't made that. It didn't have an effect. In this case, Commissioner Cruz has in fact agreed with MAPC, so I appreciate that very much. I'm just curious about the process. Once again, I'll keep bringing this up because I'm concerned about property rights being a very foundational part of what we do here in Sedgwick County Commission. I want to make sure we don't do something that is considered maybe non-constitutional. So I'm very concerned about that. But on CAB 5, since we have an 11-member board, we have a quorum of 6. And if you have less than less than, anything would be motioned, it still requires 6 votes to pass, so it's a majority of the members appointed, not members present necessarily. That's how we handle that on CAB 5. We also do not do property rights cases on CAB 5. But anyway, in this particular case, I was curious because only 4 people voted for the motion to send this back. Second of all, I think the people who spoke in this case, they live a fair distance from this, from the subject property in this zoning case. Is that correct? Like a mile away or so?
That's correct.
Yeah, so they do live a distance away. So, the process by which we would, again, there was 0 protest, 12-0 from MAPC. The fact that we're spending time giving, I appreciate what CABs do. I wish they would focus on things that are not property issues. But having said that, we spent a fair amount of time today talking about the only thing that's been opposed to this is the issue of the water, which I guess was dealt with by our codes. Our codes take care of this problem. So to me, that's just very simple. So I'm glad there's a motion to approve this. But as of right now, I just like to have the commissioners again reflect on the idea that we have property rights cases going before CAB boards, and I don't know that that's the best way to handle these issues. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the chance to speak.
Well, thank you. I was the first commissioner to establish the Citizens Advisory Board, and if you just listen to the title of that organization, it is citizens that are there to advise the commission. It's just like the city has district advisory boards to advise their city council person. I served on the city district advisory board for 8 years, so I'm fairly familiar with the operation of that. Again, they're there to advise. As far as how many show up, it doesn't matter. If they're going to make a vote, they should have a quorum. But what they're there for is to advise in this case, the county commissioners on an issue that may come up on a vote in the future. And they have no legal authority whatsoever. Nothing in our regulations for the zoning, platting, or any other regulations require that vote to have any bearing on the vote that is presented to us by our attorneys. And you'll notice that our attorneys do provide us several different options to vote when it comes before us. It's confidential until we vote because we're the ones that make the decision. We are the ones that are responsible for deciding on what kind of zoning, platting, and so forth happen in our district. And then it comes to the entire board. I really do believe that it is a great opportunity for the citizens in our community to grow and learn what's happening in their community by looking at all the different issues that we as commissioners wish them to look at. Every single commissioner, we've made our Citizens Advisory Board's rules and regulations pretty open because each commissioner can decide exactly how that they want to run their Citizens Advisory Board. So how Commissioner Howell runs his is entirely up to Commissioner Howell. How any of the other commissioners run their district is entirely up to that commissioner. So I don't say that I disagree with him on what he decides to do on his board, as that is not what I decided to do on mine. That's not what Commissioner Cruz obviously decided to do on hers. So I just wanted to make that very clear. Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess I'll just echo that. I guess I'll need to remind my colleague that I was elected to serve in the same way that each commissioner was elected. My constituents ask me to do things, and that's how I operate, is by serving the public who has elected me. So I'm actually pretty surprised that commissioners would spend the time to monitor their colleagues' CAB boards. There's a lot of things that we need to do, and I focus on District 4. I would ask my commissioner to focus on his district as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell?
Well, thank you. And I am very focused on my district. That's not the point. But I knew this was coming before us today, so I'm doing my study, as I do in every meeting. And I think I wanted to hear the discussion, which wasn't really captured in the background material. So I wanted to go find out what comments were being made and the nature of their opposition and that type of thing. So, again, I just do my study. That's what I do. And I come prepared to discuss these things. But I just think this issue of property rights cases coming before CAB boards is fundamental. Not in this particular case. It sounds like this is an easy one. So I'm glad we have a discussion today just fundamentally about whether these types of cases should come before CAB boards. I would say this, that again, I think if we talk to our counselor, the district advisory boards that the city has, they are recognized that it's part of the property rights process. They have hearings in front of MAPC, they have hearings in front of their DAB boards, and then of course the DAB boards decisions are included in the background material, and it's presented to the full city council. They don't normally have a hearing in front of the council. They simply take the DAB board's recommendations, and the city council doesn't conduct public hearings, unlike the county commission. In this case, the applicant has to appear before the MAPC, and there's a public hearing. And the public has the right to speak there. And then they come before the BOCC, and we have another public hearing normally, and we expect the applicant to be a participant in this. In this case, the applicant did not want to attend the CAB board. We don't know why. For some reason, they weren't there. But then it sounds like there was almost a recommendation to strip him of his rights based on the fact that he wasn't present at the CAB board. Again, this gets back to the fundamental part of why CAB boards should not be dealing with property rights cases. You're making an applicant make numerous appearances, appearance after appearance after appearance before governing boards, when really this particular one, it doesn't really make sense that we would even expect him to show up to this necessarily. So we're giving a lot of weight to a CAB board where 4 members voted on a board of 12. And frankly, the questions that they had were based on code. There's very simple answers to these questions. And yet they were recommending to delay this approval based on their missing information they didn't have in front of them. So again, I just say the DAB boards and CAB boards are not the same thing. DAB boards are recognized in the city council's process. That's not what happens here. If we would want to make this part of our process, then all 5 boards should be doing the same thing, but they're not. And again, if we want to write that into our processes and stop doing public hearings in front of the BOCC, we can follow the city's example. I don't think we should continue to add more stops for the applicants to impress more boards to continue to lengthen this process. I do think we have to pick either the CAB boards will do this or the BOCC will do this. And I'd personally like the elected officials to have this responsibility. The elected officials, in my opinion, ought to be the ones to make the decisions on property rights. That's, again, it's foundational and constitutionally based. The elected officials should be making the decisions, not unelected folks. And so that's my point. Again, I appreciate the chance to speak again, but there is a difference, fundamental difference between DAB boards and CAB boards. Thank you again, Chairman.
Commissioner Cruz.
I think one important thing to discuss in regards to this is the comments that were made to me after this from the citizens who came and spoke in opposition. They just wanted to be heard. And they said, if anything else, they were glad that they were able to speak their piece in an open forum because they felt that they weren't heard before. And so that was part of this, was giving constituents the ability to feel like they were heard. And that's exactly the conversation we had. So I appreciate your long and lengthy explanation of this, but there is a motion on the floor. I would call the vote.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. If you would just give me one opportunity, though, before we call the vote. I fundamentally disagree with Commissioner Howell that I want the citizens involved in my district. And I provide that opportunity. Each and every commissioner has an opportunity to run their Citizens Advisory Board the way they want to. And I am not going to have another county commissioner direct how that I'm going to run my Citizens Advisory Board. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Aye. Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Next item, please.
Item I, island annexation request by the City of Wichita pursuant to City of Wichita Resolution Number 22-358.
Morning, Justin.
Good morning, Commissioners. Justin Wagner, Deputy County Counselor, here to present on this item. As the Deputy County Clerk noted, it's an island annexation proposed by the City of Wichita. And I'm going to show you on the slideshow a handful of maps here. In this case, the property owner has petitioned the City of Wichita to be island annexed by it. Really, an island annexation really means that the annexed land or the land proposed to be annexed does not adjoin the city's contiguous boundaries. On the map that's in front of you now, you can see that the property that's at issue here in the yellow cross hashing is about a half mile to the west of the City of Wichita's contiguous boundaries. It's located at the southwest corner of the intersection of 21st Street North and 151st Street West. Under state law on these matters, once the property owners petition to be island annexed, the city then has to, if it wants to move forward with the annexation, has to pass an ordinance to request the Board of County Commissioners to make findings under the state statute to either essentially approve or disapprove the island annexation. And I'll get into those findings a little bit more later. And we have a 30-day window of time to make those findings. And in the first map that we have, this is the zoomed in version of the map, and I've described where it's at. It's 101 acres of land. And second map is more zoomed out, and it's in the red circle there. It's showing the property in relation to the city of Wichita's city limits, and then also the cities of Mays, Colwich, and Goddard, as they're most of those are 2 or 3 miles approximately away from the subject site. The final map on here demonstrates an overlay of the Northwest Bypass or Expressway where it's proposed to be developed, and you can see that it's proposed to be right adjacent to this property just to the west of it. In this matter, the city of Wichita does intend to extend municipal services to this property, including water, sanitary, sewer, police and fire services, and then for any roads that would be developed or streets, I should say, within the property that's proposed to be annexed, the city would be responsible for the maintenance of those streets as well. There's not a requirement that a city come up with a plan for annexation or for services that they'll provide on an island annexation. You all recall that on September 7th, you had a zoning case in front of you on this property. That zoning case, again, it's a separate process from the island annexation, but I think it is worth mentioning. They were proposing to rezone the property from rural residential to a combination of limited commercial for the 9 acres at the intersection of 21st Street and 151st. And then also for the rest of that property to be zoned 2-family residential or TF3, which could include duplexes. And I believe the applicant also noted that some of it may end up becoming single-family housing. The Board of County Commissioners, you've voted to defer that matter to November 16th. Per the county's resolution on annexation matters, we have a policy on these. Our office is supposed to reach out to county staff members and get input on island annexations that are proposed. The comment that I received from county finance was, and Commissioner Howard asked this question on the zoning matter, was how much of a budgetary impact would this have on the fire district? It's just under $60 per year in tax revenue based on how the property is developed now that would come out of the fire district if this property is annexed. Also, the land is, in terms of one of the findings that you'll have to make is whether the annexation would hinder or prevent the proper growth and development of the area, or if it would hinder or prevent the proper growth and development of any other city within Sedgwick County. So to that end, I analyzed the City of Wichita Sedgwick County Comprehensive Plan. The land that's proposed to be annexed is located within the City of Wichita's urban growth area. I'm not aware of any other city that's saying that they're going to grow into this area. I did reach out, consistent with our annexation policy, to the mayors of Colwich, Mays, and Goddard because in theory they could be impacted some by this annexation. The only city I heard back from on that was the city of Mays. They said they didn't have any objections to this, but they did have the opportunity to provide feedback and also were made aware of today's hearing. The land is also proposed to be proposed to be utilized for a mixture of new residential and then for most of the property. And then again, at the intersection there, a residential and employment mix is what's proposed there, so potentially some commercial uses. The property is within the Renwick School District. During the zoning case, there had been a question about if the school district would be able to serve if there were a lot more students added from this area with the number of potential duplexes that could go there. Planning department staff had reached out to the school district. Their board president wrote back to indicate the school district generally was supportive of the project and that they would be able to serve the increase in enrollment that could come from it with their current facilities. As I mentioned before, state statute lays out requirements under which an annexation can occur. The first of those is land is required to be located in the same county as the city. Here it clearly is. Second, the owner of the property must petition or consent to the annexation. In this case, it's been petitioned for. And then lastly, the Board of County Commissioners, by a 2/3 vote, must find that the annexation will not hinder or prevent the proper growth and development of the area or any other city within Sedgwick County. That's up to your discretion as a board. The recommended action is to make findings that you deem to be appropriate. Again, it can be on either side of that issue. The City of Wichita does have planning department staff present here today. There's not a requirement for a public hearing, but you can open it up for any public comments that you'd like to receive. I'd be happy to stand for any questions, and as I noted before, if you want to open it up for any other comments to individuals, that'd be acceptable.
Oh, thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. I think we're following the right steps because the City of Wichita does want to annex this. This is why that we deferred the proposed rezoning here recently. I do have one question, though, and I plan to make a motion here after I've heard from everyone to approve this. But one of the parts of the motion that I'm going to make is that we make a finding that proposed annexation will not hinder or prevent the proper growth or development of the area. And what my concern is, I've been a very large proponent of the Northwest Expressway. And from all of the time that I spent on the MAPC and here, the biggest thing that I hear is not in my backyard. So what my question is that as we send this back over to the city, how do we guarantee that the number of residents here won't start protesting the Northwest Expressway when it finally comes to fruition, and try and stop that, because we've been working very, very hard to make sure that that is successful. So is there something that we can do as we send it back over to the city saying that we approve this, that make sure that the public can't stop this because of having housing right next to the expressway?
It's a good question, Chairman. I don't think I have a great answer. I have a thought or two that I'll offer for you and the board. I don't know that it's too pertinent on the island annexation. I do think that you can't really attach conditions on any resolution that you pass here. I don't believe you can easily do that. I think you could have it as part of your findings that maybe if this property is, ultimately annexed by the city, they would undertake some sort. You could have a recommendation or a request that they make some sort of action to make folks aware. The closest thing I can think of is if, for example, a zoning approval would occur on this. A mechanism that's used a lot under the law and for folks who deal with property is to record things with the Register of Deeds. You could have something recorded with the Register of Deeds when this zoning goes through, or some sort of document that makes folks, theoretically, if they go look up their property on the Register of Deeds website, that there is a proposed roadway to be located through here that would be next to it. I don't know how much benefit that provides, and I don't think you're going to be able to, in actuality, keep people from complaining years later and being frustrated that this comes in. I would ask I guess to your question, the applicant, I believe, does have an agent here today who may be able to address that. I think some of these are going to be duplex properties, so it's probably going, if they're going to be rented out, it would be, they may end up being maintained and owned by that property owner who's, I think in any leases they would reach, they may disclose that to folks who they're dealing with. Does that help answer your question, Chairman?
I hope.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions for Justin? Seeing none, applicant or agent? Morning, Chris.
Good morning, Chairman Dennis and County Commissioners. I'm glad to be back. It's been about a month, and I'm happy to be back, and happy to be here with the annexation request for the City of Wichita. And I'll go right to your question, Commissioner. I just talked to the applicants, and they're happy, if it's legal, to do some kind of a notification or deed restriction saying that an owner or buyer acknowledges the presence of the future Northwest Expressway, and to whatever extent by law that could be exercised, they're happy to do it. Similarly, on the commercial parcel, that's one of the things that is so it's so wonderful about this piece of property, because that right-of-way has been acquired. So, that's 90% of the battle. So it's most certainly defined. The access control to that right-of-way is also defined at this time. It's a really a great planning effort on behalf of KDOT and the county and the partners to think about acquisition of that right-of-way early rather than later. And if you think about the Northwest Expressway, and as it eventually comes into being, and you compare that to the Northeast Expressway on the east side of Wichita, and you think about Woodlawn and Rock and Webb and a lot of the higher density residential and apartment complexes that have just infilled around it. This really sets the stage for that same kind of growth. And oddly enough, it's been, 30-some years since that facility was built, and now it's being expanded to 6 lanes, which just goes to the growth and vitality of the Wichita area. So we really ask for your support for this annexation request to be sent back to the city of Wichita. The comments that were made earlier really hit the high points of the annexation request. I might remind you that the property just due east of this, much of it is in floodplain. So this is kind of a natural growth. If you take a look at that, the city of Wichita has already invested in the sanitary sewer main, which is up by St. Teresa Hospital, and in a 24-inch water line that ends up at the intersection of 151st and 21st. We've been working with the city of Wichita on extension of that sewer main that would serve this basin and properties eventually to the south and west. And they're happy to look at that being extended. That would be at the expense of the owners here, their expense against that property to get that developed. I think it will spur other development in the area, and I think it's just a good use of that ground, especially with its proximity to the future Northwest Expressway. And I'd stand for any questions.
Very good, thank you. And I don't see any questions. I appreciate you being here today. Justin, I have one more question for you then. Should I make 2 votes? One to ask that there be something registered with the deeds to notify the public, and the second one to approve the annexation?
I think that's to your discretion, Chairman. I suppose, and I had discussed briefly with Scott Wadle on this, something that you could do as part of your motion that you might already make is to just add a clause to have a line in the resolution regarding the annexation of the findings and requesting that the city of Wichita on a related zoning case consider the opportunity for a protective overlay to address any concerns that may exist regarding the future development of the Northwest Expressway. And I think that, ultimately that's up to the city of Wichita City Council when the zoning case comes in front of them, but they could see fit if they think it's appropriate to put in place a protective overlay. For example, Scott had mentioned there's a potential you could have noise attenuation requirements placed in that just based on proximity to there would probably be a reasonable requirement. I'm not the city of Wichita's legal advisor, but that's something they could probably consider. And again, it's outside of your control if the annexation is approved, but I think that's something that you could do, and there's nothing improper. It's just completely optional on their end.
Okay. Chris, you okay with that?
Yes.
Very good. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, I move the board make the findings that the proposed annexation will not hinder or prevent the proper growth and development of the area or any other city located within Sedgwick County, and therefore approve the resolution that indicates such findings and approval of the annex request, and request the city of Wichita consider the protective overlay that's in place to address the Northwest Expressway. We have a motion and a second. Was that good motion?
I believe so, Chairman, yes.
All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. I don't see any discussion. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Commissioner.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item J, Juneteenth holiday discussion.
Good morning, Sheena.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sheena Schmutz, Chief Human Resources Officer. Each year, the Division of Human Resources presents the Commission with a resolution to approve the upcoming year's holiday. This is done so that we can load information into our timekeeping system for the upcoming years. Traditionally, each year, the Commission approves 10 paid holidays, 9 of which are federally observed holidays, consisting of the New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr., President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, the day after Thanksgiving, and Christmas Day. The Commission also observes Columbus Day, but not as a paid holiday. The discussion for today is the addition of the Juneteenth holiday, which would be observed on Monday, June 19th, 2023. This became an official federal holiday in 2021. The actual cost, because I know that has been brought up, for working on that additional holiday would be just shy of $169,000. And with that, the commission can discuss and provide direction for staff.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Sheena? Commissioner Howell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just the first question, and I'd like to hear other discussion as well, but can you please explain the $169,000? I mean, one paid holiday, I should say 1 day at Sedgwick County for staff is shy of $1 million. Can you please explain?
So we have our salary paid, hourly pay, and then what is actual work on those holidays. So we budget for that. So this would be for people who are working on the holiday. They would be paid an additional holiday pay, and that is, like I said, just short of $169,000. Total cost would be just shy of $829,000.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all my questions for now. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any. We'll bring it back to the board for any discussion. Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. After receiving numerous requests from my constituents and employees of this county, I made the formal request to place this discussion on an agenda to add Juneteenth to the list of county holidays. I do think it's very fitting that we celebrated the county's recognition of an award the county received for work in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion just earlier this morning. But I have to ask, other than receiving an award from the Business Journal, what tangible actions does the community see the county doing to, as Liz Hamer put it, align stated values with actions? Recognizing Juneteenth as a holiday, recognizing this important moment in our history is one tangible way to say to our employees and the entire county as a whole that we do care. It is a way to say we aren't simply interested in lip service, but rather that we will take the step and lead the efforts to say in this county that Black lives matter, and we see the value of educating and raising awareness that freedom belongs to everyone. So with that, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I will be making the motion to adopt Juneteenth as a holiday in Sedgwick County.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we did the agenda review, last week, I think it was, I said that I thought this would be more appropriate to do this in November. We talk about our holiday schedule every November. And just thinking about what happened last year, we passed our budget in August. I was surprised that the federal government on June the 19th of 2021 did this. It kind of came out of nowhere, but it came up quickly, and it became a federal holiday essentially about 6 weeks before we adopted our budget. And normally we adopt the budget before we have the discussion about holidays. And so I don't think 2021 in November was an appropriate time to talk about this necessarily. We talked about it a little bit. We thought we'd talk to staff and talk to our employees and find out what they valued. That was a discussion we had last year. And I have every intention of talking about this again this November. If we have this discussion this November, then the 2023 I don't know when it would start. Let's say if it starts in 2023, I guess it would have an impact on the budget we already passed. So I have some concerns about the budget we passed already, about the money, where it comes from to make this happen, since we didn't actually budget for this already, but we did pass a budget already for 2023. So I have some concerns about that. But I guess I would just say this. I think it was my intention. I think I talked to at least one colleague here about when was the appropriate time to talk about Juneteenth. I think this November, when we talk about holidays, would be the time we should talk about this. And so I recommended during the agenda review, we would delay this until November. And I think that's still an appropriate thing we should be talking about doing in November for a number of reasons. I don't want to get into all those reasons right now, but I do think this is a good discussion, but there's a more appropriate time. We have to talk about all of the holidays. I mean, we're talking about one option, of course, is to add a holiday, and there's a cost to that. Another option, which I think is what we all talk about in November, my hope is we would actually give up a holiday to take to observe Juneteenth. So we should have that discussion, but we should do it in November when we have a comprehensive discussion about all of the holidays. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you. So last November when we had this conversation, like normal, I was the only one who spoke out in favor of adopting Juneteenth because at the time I said, if we're going to take DEI seriously, then we need to show that we take it seriously, and this is a really good way of starting that. Because we didn't have 3 commissioners at the time who were on board with that, it didn't pass. But knowing that this conversation was coming in November, because that's the time we normally have conversations about holidays, we have been doing work with our staff on what is that going to look like and how can we get that passed and have enough support to get that passed. So I'm really happy to say that I think we have the support to pass that. I think that I don't know if we're going to have the support to completely add a new holiday, like Commissioner Howell said, but I think that there's an opportunity to switch a holiday or do something along those lines, and we're still working on some of those ideas and concepts because we thought we had until around mid-November like we normally do. So I agree that this needs to be a full conversation around all holidays because it very well will impact other holidays that we have. I'm glad that there seems to be more support than just myself this year, which is really an exciting step that we're getting there. But I do agree that we need to wait until November. Some of the conversations we just had even this week where we need to get more information from the DA and the courts and what is that going to look like because we just don't have all that information today because we weren't ready to have this conversation much earlier, a month and a half earlier than what we normally do. So that's where I'm at. I think if we try to pass this today as just an additional holiday, it will fail. And I would hate to see that happen. So I think that we need to really continue doing what we've been planning on doing this whole time, looking at other holidays, which means it's a bigger conversation than just one holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we go back in time a little bit to when Sheena stood in front of us over emergency management in February of this year, this was one of the things that we discussed at that time, and at that time we discussed putting it on our normal agenda in November when we set the calendar for the entire year on what the holidays are. And I think that that's appropriate because that's the way we do it every single year. So pulling this out and establishing it ahead of our normal procedure, it sounds political to me rather than well thought out. What I also like to do, because I'm not going to spend $829,000 extra dollars of taxpayers' money, but I would be open to taking a look at our entire calendar and seeing if something that we could substitute. So what I'd ask is if the manager would kind of poll the staff. You don't have to do a complete survey of all 3,000 employees, but kind of get a feel if we eliminate one of the current holidays that we have on our calendar for 2023 and replace it with Juneteenth and bring that back to us in November so that we can make an informed decision. So, Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation today. I will have to say that I have supported Juneteenth from the moment I have been elected. So saying that I have not supported that is inaccurate. I did speak out in favor of this multiple times. So I will make the motion knowing that no one will adopt this or second the motion. I think it's important to pay attention to this and highlight it as an individual holiday that constituents and employees want us to recognize. And so with that, Chairman, I'll make the motion that we adopt Juneteenth as a holiday.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Commissioner Lopez.
I'll make a motion that we defer this until November and have a conversation as a full conversation with all holidays where we'll get this passed at that point. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of order. I think that the base motion needs to have a second before there's a substitute motion made. Otherwise, if the base motion fails for lack of a second, then we're back on the bill, so to speak. We can make another motion, not a substitute.
Thank you. The first motion fails due to lack of second. At this point, is there any new motions to be made?
I'll try that again. I will make a motion that we defer this until November when we have this conversation around all of the holidays and we look to finishing the work that we're already doing to see what's most appropriate for Juneteenth.
Thank you. And in the meantime, I would ask that the manager do as I ask and kind of poll the staff. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just curiously, since Sheena is...
Second motion, please, make sure that we can talk about it. Thank you.
And I'll support that motion when it comes up for a vote. But I'd like to ask Sheena once again, you could please read the list of holidays for us that we currently observe.
New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, the day after Thanksgiving, and Christmas Day.
Okay.
And again, we observe Columbus Day, but not as a paid holiday.
And I just, Columbus Day is a regular work day for everyone here at Sedgwick County, and it's not a recognized federal holiday, I don't think, is it?
Yeah.
It is a federal holiday, but we don't recognize it here in Sedgwick County. So again, looking at this list, and I've talked to a number of people around the county, I can't imagine giving up Christmas or Thanksgiving. This is not going to happen. I really don't think they're going to give up Memorial Day and Labor Day. Really, there's only one day on that list that really stands out to me that's likely to be the target here, and that's President's Day. Again, it's a federally recognized holiday, so we're switching out one federally recognized holiday for another. I don't really know anybody that celebrates President's Day. It's a day off work. There's very little celebration going on. I think Juneteenth has more meaning. So I just say, just to kind of hone the discussion a little bit, I'd like to ask our employees more directly, would you be willing to give up President's Day to observe Juneteenth? To me, that's the question. And I'd like to have I think, again, we can talk about all the other holidays, but I just almost feel like it's a distraction to the obvious option here. So to me, this is not part of the motion in any way. I just want, just in terms of discussion, I'd like to recommend we focus on President's Day as the option to replace, to take one off and put Juneteenth on. But we can, again, have the more comprehensive discussion in November. But I think President's Day is where probably we're going to seriously consider that one. Then, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I guess that's one of the questions that the manager is going to have to ask is, would they support something like moving President's Day? I do support the pictures of the presidents on 1s, 5s, 20s, 100s, but beyond that, I'm not sure that I would have a big celebration that day. Oh, Commissioner Cruz?
What is the day in November that we will be taking this up?
I don't have a set date yet. They usually vary between late October and November. I just don't have anything on the agenda yet.
Okay, well, again, I think this is passing the buck again. We have an opportunity to discuss it right now. We have an opportunity to show that it's important. And while I'll support this motion, I do hope that sounds like we'll have the votes to pass it when it comes up. And so I hope that happens. So I will be supporting this motion due to the fact that there is optimism about when we talk about all holidays that this will be recognized as one. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't see any other comments. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Thank you, Sheena. Next item, please.
Item K, report of the Board of Bids and Contracts regular meeting on September 29th, 2022.
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Joe Thomas, Purchasing Director. The regular meeting of the Board of Bids and Contracts on September 29th results in 4 items that we're looking for your approval on. Our first item is compensation study for positions on County General Plan for Human Resources. The recommendation is to accept the proposal from Evergreen Solutions in the amount of $108,000. Item number 2, we have 5 marked police package Chargers, 5 marked police package Durangos, and 2 unmarked police package Durangos for Fleet Management and Sheriff's Office. And this recommendation is to accept the bid from Davis Moore Automotive in the amount of $500,313.90. Item number 3, security guard services for ComCare and the Department of Corrections. This recommendation is to accept the proposal from Smart Security Incorporated, and then we'll establish contract pricing for 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew. Our final item, item 4, playground resurfacing, Sedgwick County Park, and this recommendation is to accept or utilize the Greenbush contract 20.6 ESC Playground REC 2021 and that's with vendor TaylorMade Company. They do business as EcoTurf Playground, and the amount is $131,415.28. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have, and I recommend approval.
Thank you, Joe. I don't see any questions from any of the commissioners. Move to approve boards and bids and contracts. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell. Aye. Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Aye.
Thank
Next
you.
item, please.
Consent agenda.
Mr. Manager.
Good morning, Chairman and Commission. Tom Stoles, County Manager's Office. Recommend approval of consent items L through Z this morning.
Move to approve Lima through Zulu. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. At this time, I'd like to recess the Board of County Commissioners meeting for October the 5th. Call to order the governing body of Fire District Number 1 for October 5th. Madam Clerk, next item.
Roll call. Commissioner Meitzner.
Present.
Commissioner Cruz.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Present. Next item, please.
Public agenda.
I don't have anyone signed up to speak on public agenda for the fire. Next item, please.
Consideration of minutes. Item A, regular fire meeting minutes of August 17, 2022.
Thank you. Commissioners, everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes from August 17th, 24th of August, September 21st, and all commissioners were present. Move to approve. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Next item, please.
Consent agenda.
Mr. Manager.
Good morning again. Tom Stoles, County Manager's Office. Recommend a fire consent item D be approved this morning.
Thank you. I move to approve consent item Delta. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Next item, please.
Legislative issues.
We have changed our governing body to add a few items so that we can address any legislative items. Tanya, do you have anything that we need to discuss for the fire district on legislative issues?
Morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I don't have anything specifically for the fire district. I will be speaking about the legislative platform, but I'll be doing that under a regular business of the BOCC.
Okay. Any questions for Tanya? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, next item.
Other.
Anyone have anything during other? Commissioner Howell.
Just this is kind of between legislative issues and other. So, again, on the platform, I do have an item regarding the elected fire board. I don't know if we should talk about that now or talk about that later.
Let's talk about it now. Rusty, I think it's appropriate to give the commission an update on, he had sent out a letter based on, I think, a comment from Commissioner Meitzner, and I think it's a good time for an update of that just to keep this this ball rolling. So, Rusty, can you give us an update?
Morning, Rusty.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chairman. So, from previous discussions, in a resolution that was, or a draft resolution that Mr. Wagner had presented back about a month and a half ago, there was direction to seek input from the 10 cities that are served by the fire district, and then also some industrial partners who are both and or either tax-paying and or providing fees for service in lieu of taxes because of some exemptions. So we reached out to those folks, and I've gotten responses from all of them. What you have before you, I intended to send out yesterday. I was waiting on one municipality. I actually spoke to the representative of that municipality this morning, and I will update this with their comments. But essentially, the 10 cities and the 2 industrial partners that we reached out to are all supportive of the idea of having an advisory commission or advisory board for the fire district. so that folks, individuals and businesses who pay taxes to support the fire district can provide input to the county commission, to the board, to the fire board. Specifically, most of them were fairly benign. They support the idea. They would like to participate. They would be willing to put forward nominate a representative to the board. Some specific comments, and I'll start with Andel. Andel is the one I spoke to this morning to get final input. They had taken this before two different council meetings to discuss it. Essentially, the feedback from Andel is that they're supportive, generally supportive of the idea. The resolution that was utilized to get their feedback is attached as an addendum, and I think there will be a amended one, maybe talked about here in a little while. But the one that they used, Andel felt like 5 cities were named specifically to have representatives. Their request would be to amend this so that Andel and some of the other 5 cities that were not specifically mentioned might have an opportunity for representation on this commission or advisory board as well. There has been, I believe, some. I don't want to get ahead. I think that's been addressed to some level based on feedback from the Sedgwick County Association of Cities and work that Mr. Wagner has done on this issue. But that was their primary feedback, was the potential for the other 5 cities to have representation. Specifically, otherwise, Bel Air suggested that they are supportive. They also suggested that the Planning Commission level input is what they would recommend. The board needs to have value. It needs to be something that the county commission would listen to and back and support. And if it has that level of authority, then they would be supportive of it. They are not supportive of a board where people go sit and listen to fire district staff, give them an update on what they've been doing recently, and then they all adjourn and go home. They want some teeth in this so that if they bring recommendations to the board, that the board will listen to those recommendations and probably follow them. That was their input. And then I'll just touch on a couple of others since you haven't had a chance to read through this. City of Keachai recommended that, like Andel, they recommended that the original resolution that they had an opportunity to look at suggested 5 specific cities that would have representation. They suggested that there should be representation from cities of the 2nd and 3rd class, more so than there was in the original resolution. They also recommended that the section C3 in that resolution, which I think carries over into the new one that Justin might have, suggests that individuals have specific skill sets. They either have accounting or some type of specific skill set to be on the board. Keachai recommended that be relaxed so that lay people might have an opportunity to be on the board and provide feedback to the fire district as well. And then the final thing that I'll point out is that one of our industrial partners, one is we have a contract with for the fees in lieu of tax because some of their properties are exempt. They also have properties that are within the district that pay taxes, so they do both. And then one of the partners has properties that are tax paying only, but they are in a special district. They suggested that the language in the original resolution did not give them an opportunity to nominate a representative because the language requires that the person own property or that the business is owned by the person sitting on the board. And in this corporate type setting, those 2 descriptions don't work. The representative would not own the business and or would not necessarily live in the district. So they suggested that the board consider a tweak to that to allow a corporate partner to put forth a nominee to sit on the fire commission. So those were the highlights from this 10 cities and 2 industrial partners that we talked to. Those were the highlights. You can read through it. I'll update the Andel input and so that this document has all the details in it. So that's what I have from that exercise in getting feedback from those communities. I think some of them will be at the next Sedgwick County Association of City meeting, and I understand that the chief has been invited to come and talk on this issue at that time as well. So that's what I have for you today. I'll stand for questions if you have any.
Well, thank you, Rusty. I appreciate the feedback. I think it's appropriate that we discuss this under other rather than legislative issues because we don't need to go to the legislature in order to be able to put bear and approve a advisory board to the governing body of the fire district. So I think we can continue to move this forward without waiting for our legislative agenda. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of points. I agree with the Chairman. However, there is a number of things that are kind of connected to each other. This is what we call the steering commission. I think we're talking about changing this to a steering council. I don't really know why, but the word commission might get confused with commissioners versus this other board. So that might clean that up a little bit. But so we have a legislative issue to create an elected fire board. I do want to talk about that. But parallel to that, in addition to that, we have the steering council creation, which is fairly mature. Unfortunately, the handout we received this morning is missing a few pages. I hate to say that. I have, at least my copy is missing every other page all the way through the end. So I don't know how that happened, but we have some time to talk about this. I just like to just present, if you will, where we're at. We did make some amendments based on the last Sedgwick County Association of Cities meeting. We changed the makeup a little bit to give the Class 3 cities some representation appointed by SCAC board. And then there was also one paragraph that they felt was unclear. So we made some English edits to clarify the intent of that paragraph, which is now very clean, but it's on a missing page that I don't have currently. I think she's handing out another copy here.
Was that on the handout that I gave you, sir?
This one I received doesn't have the.
Okay.
Just received it a few minutes ago. It doesn't have the.
Okay, that's my bad. I didn't hit two-sided, so I'll clean that up and I'll send it to you electronically. Actually, Nicole has it electronically, so
here's the resolution as it currently sits. And so there was a change to change it to the name council. That's throughout the entire document. There was also an edit on the responsibilities of this, or the purpose of this board, and there was some English clarification added to that paragraph. I'm looking for the paragraph where it is in here, but I don't know where that is right now. I'll find it in just a moment. But that, just to clean up there was some confusion on the purpose of this board and what their responsibilities would be. So we cleaned that up. I believe that I would be very surprised if the Sedgwick County Association of Cities is not pretty pleased with this at this point. And again, it's still a nine-member board. Again, the five cities that are serviced by the fire district that are the larger cities have a direct nomination to this board. From each of the 5 cities in the Class 3 cities have representation through the Sedgwick County Association of Cities. So there'll be 2 more appointments there. That leaves a couple of positions open for the BOCC to make those appointments for the unincorporated areas. And again, I think a friendly amendment would be potentially to, again, allow one of these companies that is serviced by the fire district to provide an appointment. But if we do that, we might want to adjust the SCAC appointments down by 1. That, to me, is something we can discuss, whether we want to have 2 appointments by SCAC or 1, and whether or not one of these companies should make an appointment. If they do, then I think we should maybe adjust the SCAC appointments down to 1 versus 2. Again, these are some tweaks to the resolution. We have right now plans to present this. I believe it's November the 19th. I believe it is. Is that the right date for SCAC next time? The 12th, okay. So November the 12th, we're going to present this to SCAC again. I would hope that they would adopt this, or should say recommend its adoption. And so between now and November 12th, I'd like the commissioners to, again, read this carefully and I guess weigh in on whether or not we ought to make an adjustment to the board makeup. I would caution us from adding members. I don't think that going from 9 to something larger is beneficial. And I say that because there is another statute I'm not going to get into right now, but there's an idea of a board of trustees, but the maximum number for the board of trustees to do this responsibility is 9. So as long as we keep this at 9 or less, 9, 7, or 5, we have the option of converting this to a trustee board in the future if we want to do that. So I think again, moving towards autonomy and to succession, I should say, the sustainability of the fire district is my goal. So at some point, I want to change from the council discussion from this resolution back to the legislative platform issue, which is the elected fire board. I don't know if we'll want to talk about this briefly, and then we can talk about the elected fire board next, but I'd like to pause for just a minute and see if there's any discussion about this document so far.
Thank you. We're also still missing page 2 of Chief Williams' letter, so we'll need to get that before we can make any decisions.
So I present this to you just for more of a discussion today, not really to be adopted right now. We can adopt this hopefully between, maybe after SCAC meets on the 12th of November. Would be my goal. So, okay, so with that, that's an update on the resolution for the steering council. May I talk about the legislative platform for just a moment?
Certainly.
Okay. So I had recommended that we would come together as a commission and support a legislative platform issue that would ask the state of Kansas to create, if you will, an elected fire board, and that would be with the intent to replace the Board of County Commissioners as the governing body of the Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1. And the reason I would do that primarily comes back to representation. There are a number of things we're doing right now. One of the other resolutions we're not talking about right now, but probably we'll talk about once we have the steering council seated, would be the separation of administrative duties between the Sedgwick County and the fire district itself. Again, talking to Chief Williams even just yesterday, it looks to me like it looks like they're doing some initial work here. There actually is some cost savings available to the fire district, but whether it was if it was a wash or if there's cost savings, again, that's even better. But this sets us up for changes to the fire district by moving this from the Sedgwick County Board of County Commissioners as governing body back to an elected board or a board of trustees. The elected fire board, I think, is ideal because that the way the people who are serviced by the fire district get to pick their leaders. And right now, although they're picking the county commissioners, none of the 5 county commissioners actually live in an area that are paying fire district taxes or serviced as a prime responsibility of the fire district to where we actually live. So if you go back to the constitutional theory that taxation without representation is unconstitutional, in a sense, we are making decisions on behalf of the fire district that provide services to the people that are paying the taxes, and none of us are directly impacted by the decisions we make. So an elected fire board would resolve that. In Kansas, we have elected boards do things like drainage districts, cemetery districts, library districts, obviously townships. We have lots of different boards across the state of Kansas. And the one thing they have in common is they pass budgets and they answer to the people that they serve. And I think that's the model. Again, representation in government is very, very important. We can continue to hoard this responsibility back to the Board of County Commissioners, or we can give it up to an elected fire board. I think that's the best model. And so with that, I think it's a legislative platform issue. I'd like to advocate to the legislature that this is a better form of government. In my opinion, it's actually a smaller government because we're letting them pick their elected leaders, and we don't have to have 2 bodies essentially making decisions for the fire district. So it's less government. It's probably, in my opinion, they have much more able to be more likely to be successful to find efficiencies or to essentially adjust what they do and how they do it, so that the decisions they make impact themselves. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see this stay on the platform.
Well, thank you. And honestly, everything you said, I really do agree with. But my concern is going up to the legislature saying that we want to create a separate fire board when we as commissioners have put the fire district on the path of insolvency by 2027. And I don't know how we can say, we're passing the buck to someone else. It's just morally incorrect to me. So that's my biggest concern is how can we ask someone else to take over something where we're guaranteed that there's either going to be service cuts or a mill levy increase, because that's the only way that we're going to keep the fire board on a solvent path. So, Commissioner Howe?
So with all due respect, I assume you're talking about the budget adoption this year where we gave a pay increase to our firefighters. Is that what you're referring to, Mr. Chairman? Are you referring to the pay increase we provided this year in the fire budget?
I'm talking about several things that we did. One, and I voted for it because it wasn't going to put us on a path of insolvency, but we moved $2 million to pay for some of the loans that we have. Okay. In addition, we'd already moved $700,000 over to pay for the increase in pay that our HR department and our staff had recommended. However, as a result of a motion that was made without staff, without the board taking a look at it ahead of time, that was rushed through on budget adoption day, we had to move another $200,000 or $300,000 over for a total of about $1 million extra. So that's $3 million that we moved out of the fire district back over to the county, which puts us on the path of insolvency by 2027. And that is absolutely, I don't have, if we're going to own it, then we need to own it. And so that vote was made. We now own it, and suddenly we want to pass it off to someone else. That's morally incorrect. Thank you. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. So as a rebuttal to that, I had emergency surgery not too long ago, and I got out of the hospital, came straight to a staff meeting so I could present these ideas to a staff, at a staff meeting to my colleagues and to our staff. And it was 4 different subjects, 4 different topics, all relating to the fire district. And I presented at that time an idea to pay off debt and to use the cost savings on the interest as paid to Sedgwick County to pay for a wage increase that they deserve and they need, because we're seeing attrition rates increase at the fire district. And so it was a pay for. It didn't set us up for insolvency. It simply shifted money that was being consumed by interest to the county and reserved that money for pay increases, which they deserve. They went from $14 and change up to $18 and change. So a brand new firefighter in Sedgwick County is now going to be making $18 an hour. $18, and I forget the exact number, I think maybe 18 even. I think it's $18 even is what they're going to make now. We were seeing attrition rates increase, and we saw that through our jail deputies to the point we were in crisis mode. We saw that in our EMS until we were in crisis mode. It's time to do things more proactively, and the fire district needed to have this adjustment made. We found a pay for. It didn't set us up for fiscal failure. It sets us up to use the money that would be otherwise wasted on interest. They had the money in savings. I simply said they shifted over and used the interest savings to pay for the wage increase. It was very smart, actually. That passed on a vote of 4 to 1, with Chairman Dennis voting no. I also presented the idea of the steering commission at the time. And that was a great discussion, and I think we have moved forward with that. I also presented the idea of separation of administrative duties. Again, I presented it. I know this is not something we're going to do quickly. We're going to be very careful, but I presented that at that same meeting. And finally, I presented the idea of moving this to an elected fire board, which I think everyone seems to understand that is a better form of government. So I'm going to take this to the legislature, asking for representative government. It's constitutional, and they love the Constitution up in Topeka. At the end of the day, it's a better form of government. Let me tell you some things we could do. If we had the bravery to do it, some things we could do. Let me give you one example, a couple of examples. Station 38 is essentially one building with a City of Wichita fire station. I forget the number that they use, but there's 2 stations there that actually share the same building. That's not good government. It's a beautiful building, but we are actually not able to find efficiencies by actually working out a situation there. It's either they should take over that station or we should take over that station. But in either case, we are sharing a station. There's no reason to have 2 fire stations in the same building. That's not good government. We voted not too long ago to spend $3.2 million for a 4-bay fire station in Annandale. I voted for it. It was a 5-0 vote. But we also felt a tremendous amount of political pressure to do that. Had I voted no, I would have been characterized as being someone who doesn't support the fire district, which is not true at all. But to spend $3.2 million on a fire station in Annandale probably wasn't the best choice we could have made. I advocated through that process to find a way to do this for less money. And I was shunned by everyone. That idea wasn't going to fly. We wanted to spend big money, and we did, $3.2 million. Right now we have in our CIP to spend $3.7 million in Bel Air for a new fire station. And I love shiny fire stations, but that's a lot of money. And that very same money can be used for things like getting us back out of fiscal distress here and putting us back into the black. So we have to be very careful with our money. An elected fire board, I promise you, will make much better decisions. I think right now, we are not doing a good job of keeping this thing fiscally solvent. We could do better, but I think politically, it's very difficult to do so. If we were serviced by the district, and if the only thing we had to focus on was keeping this district solvent and providing the best services to Sedgwick County and taking care of our staff, we might make better decisions. We have 100 things a day we're thinking about as commissioners, and the fire district is one of those 100 things. We don't spend all of our time thinking about one thing. We think about all kinds of things. An elected fire board, their only job as an elected fire board member would be to make sure that they provide the best services, pay their staff properly, and keep it solvent. I assure you they can do a good job at this. At the end of the day, representative government that focuses on that one issue is what's needed here. So I'll argue, I did not surprise this on my colleagues. I had to pay for. I did not set us up for fiscal distress here. I set us up for taking care of our staff. But these are ideas brought forward by the fire department, by the way. The firefighters brought me these ideas. I worked with them, I heard them, and I support them. At the end of the day, this is all good ideas. We should do what they ask us to do because, again, it's better government and actually sets us up for long-term success in the fire district. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Anything else on other? We don't have an executive session today, so at this time I'd like to adjourn the governing body of Fire District Number 1, call back to order the Board of County Commission meeting for October the 5th. Madam Clerk, next item.
Legislative issues.
All right, Tanya, you're back on.
Okay, good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Tanya Cole, Assistant County Manager. So last week during the County Commission workshop, we kicked off our discussion on 2023 legislative platform. Since that time, I have taken what you discussed and modified our 2023 legislative platform, and you have that before you. And so some of the public service items, ComCare, aging, CDDO, that is still a work in progress. Tim Kaufman, our Deputy County Manager, Aging Director Annette Graham, ComCare, Joan Tammany, they are still working on the language for that through our state associations and then still trying to get the information that you asked for. So you'll see that there's not a lot of changes to the language there. But again, that's we are working on that. There are some items that you provided direction to that we were easily able to take some of those items out. And so what we did take out were the health department items. We took out the stormwater mitigation. You indicated that would be something that we can talk to through SCAC about. And we did take out the expiration place item on there. So if that's something that you're thinking that you don't want that taken out and you want that added back in, please just let me know. What I would like to point out where I made some revisions, you'll see at the top under appropriations, I put that at the very top, and that was to support the regionalized state mental health facility. Put that right at the top as you requested. The other item that I changed, and this is just verbiage, is under policy, and it's broadband access. I changed the verbiage there to say support policy that funds broadband access through state and federal legislation. And so those are the changes that in the short amount of time between last week and this week, we've been able to change. But I will tell you, we are still currently working on the legislative platform and trying to get more information as you've requested. So if there's anything that you'd like to pull out and discuss, please do so at this time.
Okay. But the idea that you've got as we move forward is that we'll start addressing these details, these different issues in detail, and then vote on them one at a time, or how are we going to finalize this?
Sure, that's correct. So what I thought we would do is, and please give me different direction if you'd like to, as we continue to work on these and get better language and better information, I will come every week under legislative issues and bring a revised copy of this. And then when we feel we're ready and we've got this finalized to where you're able to vote, I think the idea is that you would vote on the legislative platform. And I don't know if you want to do those individually, each item, or just collectively as a whole. But I think the idea is that we would like to get this voted on and finalized by November.
Okay. Questions for Tanya? Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must have missed you said there were three things removed. I had the stormwater mitigation and the expiration place. What was the first one?
Health department. The health department items.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Chairman, if we want to take something off this right now, do you want to have discussion right now, or should we just do this later? What are you suggesting?
Well, I think what Tanya is suggesting is that they've got some more work to do before that they bring it to us for us to be able to go through item by item.
Okay. All right, yeah. All right, yeah, I think there's some things I'd like to see added and some things taken off here, so I guess if we're not going to have discussion right now, that's fine. I'll just work with staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Tanya? Seeing nothing. Madam Clerk, next item.
Committee reports.
Any commissioners have anything for committee reports today? I don't see anything. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Other.
Commissioners, Commissioner Meitzner.
Well, I'm just going to comment on our event yesterday at Wichita State, the value impact, and Commissioner Lopez was on that committee, and that $51 million movement that WSU has received is going to have an incredible impact, not only right away, but there's a lot of discussion of what's going to be the end result 10 years from now. And there's a lot of great feedback, and I just want to thank Wichita State University for taking the lead on that grant, and I want to thank the community for supporting Wichita State, and thank our commission for their involvement in getting that grant approved and the incredible impact that it will have on the future of our workforce and our economy in whole, to stay as a leader in the world advanced manufacturing markets.
Thank you. Anything else from commissioners? I just have a couple comments. First of all, I want to thank our leadership team for putting together the Employees Recognition Day that we had last Saturday at Sedgwick County Zoo. The staff did a great job of preparing that, and we want to make sure that we thank our staff for a great job and having that at the zoo where the families could come and enjoy the zoo and also have lunch. We appreciate our leadership team for coming up with that and taking care of all the work. All the commissioners had to do was just stand in line and serve our employees. It was a great day. We appreciate it. The other thing is that last week on Thursday, there was a committee come down out at Wichita State to discuss the mental health, the regional mental health hospital. And the sheriff, the DA, Tim Kaufman, the manager, and myself, we all spoke to that committee, that legislative committee, about the importance of the hospital. We described exactly what we were looking at. We explained that we don't have a location for it because if we're going to be the ones that build it, we're going to be using funds that come from the state, and it has to be open and transparent. We'd have to bid it out, and we could bid it several ways as a completed project. We could bid it as finding a building at a location. There's all kinds of ways. We don't know because we don't have any money to do it with. So at this point, what we were asking was that the legislature continue helping us prepare and approve a regional mental health hospital here in Sedgwick County that had 50 beds. So I talked to each one of them individually at the end of the meeting. I think that there is a positive movement moving forward. And the main thing, and the manager touched on it very well at the end on a summation of what was happening, is that we've got a lot of partners. There's 5 big projects that we're working right now, and each one has a different organization that's really responsible for it. Each one of them has different funding to help it move forward, but the partners are all moving in the same direction, and they're looking at what we can do for behavioral health here in Sedgwick County. So we've been trying to move this forward for 5 or 6 years now, and right now I see a great synergy of effort all moving together at the same time. So I was very pleased with the outcome of that. The other item that I'd like to discuss briefly today is that Scott Wadle and I drove up to Manhattan on Monday. what I discovered was it would have been nice if we'd have been able to be there all day, and it also continued over to Tuesday, because I wasn't really aware of the scope of the solar conversation that was happening. So as a result, we drove up and back on the same day, and then I had a Citizens Advisory Board that night, so we really couldn't stay after we made our presentation. But the nice thing was that we got there early enough that there were about 25 different booths and people that were showing what that they could do for the solar energy. And it was exciting going around seeing the different things that were happening. And just to give you a brief summary of it, we had one, they were roofers, and they were showing how that you could take and put, instead of putting shingles on your house, you put these solar panels, and they look like shingles. And each panel is individually replaced. I asked them what happens in Kansas when you get hail, and you don't have to replace the entire roof like you do when you get a hail on your current roof. You just replace the panels that were destroyed. Does it go on the whole house? No. It goes on the parts that faces south or west. So the rest of your house will probably have some normal kind of shingles. Went to another booth, and the gentleman had an iPad, and it was on. He was using the iPad, and he took it and put it into a fish bowl that I thought was full of water. It was clear. It looked like water. And then he took it back out of the fish bowl, and it was still operating. It was dry instantly. As soon as it came out, it was dry. Put his hand in and brought it back out. His hand had no liquid whatsoever on it. It was dry. And what was that? It was a firefighting method that they had that could instantly put out a battery fire. And it doesn't conduct electricity, so it is safe for our firefighters as they're going in trying to fight a fire on some of the new storage facilities. Things like large solar farms are going to need some kind of battery storage facility as part of it. And, so this was a great idea that I thought and I did send a note to Chief Williams afterwards to make sure that they were aware that there's other technology coming out there. We're also having to fight fires on things like hybrid vehicles, and so this is another thing that could be used for. Evergy had two different electric vehicles there, and one was a little Volkswagen, one was an F-150. They were giving rides in them because of the time constraints, so I didn't get to drive one. I wanted to drive that F-150 pickup, but I didn't have an opportunity to. We opened up the hood on it. There's no engine there, and so the whole area is a place where you can store luggage, but it's also got a little compartment in there that you can fill up with ice, and it's got a drain in the bottom so that you can use it as you're going out camping or something. We had some students that had contests where that they were building, in this case, wind generation facilities, and they had a contest on designing these different wind generation windmills and so forth, and they printed those with 3D printer types for all the gears and all everything but the little generator they were able to build. We talked to folks that there was actually two large firms, law firms there, because a lot that's involved in solar and wind, you end up in litigation at some point. I did have an opportunity to talk to two different companies that are looking at locating solar here in Sedgwick County. And one of the companies said that they are looking to pull permits for spring to put about a 1,000-acre solar project in up by the Gordon Evans plant. While we were there, Scott and I did, the reason we went up is we were invited to speak at the conference, and we were the only government agency that spoke at this conference. And they appreciated the government coming in because we have a great staff, and they think ahead. When we first started seeing things that were happening over in Reno County, and it became obvious to us that we had no zoning requirements, no planting requirements, no rules, no regulations on what we do with solar energy or any alternative energy, they put together the plans for how to do that. We changed the comprehensive plan, we changed the zoning regulations, and we found out that the zoning regulations were a little more stringent than that they need to be, and so as a result, MAPD is currently looking at changing and modifying our zoning regulations to make sure that it meets the needs, because we've run into problems here recently when an electric cooperative was trying to put in two small two small solar projects. I had to get involved in it to get it to move forward, because it was almost to the point where they had invested a lot of money and it was going to fail because of our regulations. So we are modifying those to make sure that it meets the needs of both the community and the business. So the fact that we've got MABCD, MAPD, each of these different are legal folks involved at the beginning, it makes it so much easier for someone to come in and know what they have to do in order to get it approved. So they appreciated the forethought that we're going through, because other counties haven't thought of some of these things. So it was a good conference. Again, they hold it every year. I wasn't aware of that either. So 2023, it might behoove us to at least get staff up there to spend the entire time so that they can take a look at it. I know I talked a long time about it, but it was a great conference. I just wish I'd had more time to spend there. So anyone else have anything during other? Seeing nothing, we have no executive session today, and so I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks for everyone for being here.